is well underway. It is in full swing. And in this video, I'm going to go through exactly how the establishment, what we call the Columbus Cartel, Permanent Columbus, I'm going to document how they are rigging the system against not just grassroots gun owners, but against, quite frankly, any grassroots movement or organization in the state of Ohio. And I'm going to use the example of incumbent state representative Gary Click to illustrate to you guys exactly what's going on here. So Gary Click has a well-documented history and voting record of not fighting for the Second Amendment. In fact, we looked through his record. We don't think that Gary has ever sponsored himself a piece of major gun legislation. He's very adept at after a bill passes, they will open the voting record back up and say, if anyone wants to add their name as a co-sponsor now that the bill is passed, you can do that. So if you look at Gary's record in the journal, it looks good, but it's only because he's always taken a back seat on legislation that has already passed. He has never sponsored a major gun bill in his life that we could find, and we've been doing this a long time. But let's dig in here now, because Ohio gun owners ran a video, and we have ads that are going in Gary's district right now. Here's one of them right here. Two Republicans, very different when it comes to your gun rights. In the Republican primary for House District 88, this race is pretty simple. Eric Watson filled out the Ohio Gun Owner Survey 100% pro-gun. He didn't dodge any of the questions. He didn't hesitate. In fact, he demanded this survey in order to be held accountable to gun voters. Gary Click refused this survey. He refused it in 2024, and he refused it again this year. He wouldn't co-sponsor the Ohio Freedom to Carry Act. He wouldn't co-sponsor the Ohio Self-Defense Act. And he refused to co-sponsor the Ohio Second Amendment Protection Act. But it gets worse. In December of 2024, Gary Click broke rank with the majority of House Republicans, joined the Democrats, and voted no on the Second Amendment Protection Act. I'm not going to play it all the way through, but as you can see, because of those results, because of that actual record, this is the image, the rating that we gave Gary in his primary election against pro-gun candidate Eric Watson. We thought that we were being generous by giving Gary a C-, which is still technically a passing grade. But Gary has gone on the attack, because if there's anything that a politician hates more, it's being held accountable for their actual voting record and what they did and did not do as a state representative who's supposed to fight for your Second Amendment freedom. So Gary has been ranting and raving. I'm going to pop this up here. You can't quite see the whole comment, but I've got it right here in front of me. But he's been posting about how he says that I changed his answers on his survey. That's a lie. We don't do that here at Ohio Gun Owners. He's making that up completely. And he said that I called Sheriff Chris Hilton and Frederick Stevens effing idiots because they didn't read the legislation. Well, if an association of in this case the BSSA, the Buckeye State Sheriff's Association, comes out against pro-gun legislation, which they have always done in Ohio, they for example, Matt Lutz, their president at the time, testified in opposition in his uniform, in opposition with Bloomberg's Moms Demand Action crowd against constitutional carry. We expect the sheriffs, if they come out in opposition to legislation, to read the bills. And not only did those two sheriffs not read the bills, and by the way, I offered Gary to come up there and sit down and meet with those sheriffs and explain the legislation and walk them through the legislation. He never took me up on that. But not only did they not read the bills, but Gary Click himself admitted to me in person outside of the House chamber that he never read the bill, and he was relying on other people to give him information about what the bill would do. For example, he says here in this comment that the bill would have prohibited the sheriff's office from housing illegal aliens, partnering with a federal drug task force and using NIBIN, which is National Integrated Ballistics Information Network. In both sets of legislation, the last one from 2024 and the bill that's alive right now, it is specifically in the bill that nothing about the bill would prevent Ohio law enforcement from accessing those things. And you will not find bigger proponents of deporting about 35 million people out of this country than Ohio gun owners. You will not find it. They don't exist in the state of Ohio. So he also said in here that I stalked female legislators in the parking garage, harassing them about this legislation. That is creepy. I think Gary himself has a lot of creep background, and it's well documented, but this actually never happened. He's a damned liar. And as a former pastor, he should know better than to bear false witness against somebody. That never happened. It never will happen. And he's a dang liar for trying to do a character assassination on somebody like me. But here's the most important part of this charade, and you can see it actually on your screen right now at the bottom. It says that he is endorsed by Buckeye Firearms Association, and if you see, if you look at his other posts, you'll see that he makes a great big deal out of this. Actually, I can pull this up for you right here. This is what he's plastering all over the place right now as proof that he's somehow pro-gun, when his voting record very clearly leaves much to be desired. He says that this is the respectable organization in Ohio, that Ohio gun owners is just a bunch of angry people that demand their way or no. And we just want fealty to the Second Amendment. And we want Republicans, when they're in the majority and when they have the political power, to exercise that power and advance the ball down the road for the people who gave them their majorities. We are all seeing what happened in Virginia in the last 90 days. Democrats took power, and within 60 days of their legislative session, it was a 60-day session, they passed 9 gun control bills all the way through the legislature, and Governor Spanberger signed them. So when we get upset that Republicans don't do what they campaigned on and said they were going to do, it's natural. It's what the whole conservative world does when they see the other side fighting to win and our side fighting to lose. Gary Click doesn't like it that we pointed this out about him. So this post right here is what he's putting out to try to prove his pro-gun bona fides. By the way, this is that picture without the fancy background. If a picture could be classified or stereotyped, more than this one could as belonging to a certain demographic, it would be. So to prove his pro-gun bona fides, he's posting a picture of himself with a Remington 870. I think it's a scoped deer gun. I think it's got a slug barrel, a rifle barrel. If that's proving your Second Amendment bona fides, that's pretty sad. It's pretty stereotypical of a certain kind of person right now. But anyway, he's got a weird lean going on. It's clearly unnatural. But again, he's touting this BFA endorsement as proof of his pro-gun bona fides. But this is the rigging that's underway right now. You see, Buckeye Firearms Association, we've talked about this a lot over the years. I've actually gotten along really well with Rob Sexton for the last couple of years. He's pulled back from Buckeye Firearms. Now he's not their lobbyist anymore. They got a new guy. But they don't endorse or rate based on performance of the legislators themselves, on their record, on what they did or did not do as an incumbent state representative. What Buckeye Firearms has done is doing right now and has always done is they wait for House leadership to come out with their endorsement slate, and then Buckeye Firearms Association comes out with theirs, and they custom tailor it to make sure that they are in perfect alignment with House leadership, because by doing that, they buy themselves political access. By endorsing all of the speaker's candidates, they curry favor with the political class instead of actually and factually representing their members to the political class or grading these politicians on their record. You see how bastardized that is for a gun rights organization? We've never done that. We've never done that. The reason why we can run those ads like we did, like that video ad that I showed you, is because we are far more interested in representing our members to the political class than representing the political class back to our members. And that's exactly what Buckeye Firearms Association is doing right now. And we don't have to look very far to find proof of that. I've got receipts in this video. I'm going to start showing them now. For example, Buckeye Firearms Association were the ones who endorsed Mike DeWine in the 2018 primary. I think it was in February, long before the field was ever settled. We had Mary Taylor, who was running, who was excellent on the Second Amendment, but Buckeye Firearms Association stuck their finger in the air and could see which way they thought the political winds were blowing, and they endorsed Mike DeWine, who was previously rated F by the NRA of all people for his co-sponsorship with Dianne Feinstein in reauthorizing the assault weapons ban in 2006. We don't believe in endorsing people that have such a catastrophic record against your Second Amendment freedoms. But there they were, picking sides in that just to curry favor with the political class. And I wish that was the only time that they did that, but there's more. They also did the same thing for former Governor John Kasich in, it would be 2014. There they were endorsing him, even though John Kasich, by their own grade that you can see there, was a B plus. I don't know how you get a B plus with John Kasich, but there they were endorsing him instead of holding him accountable when John Kasich had been one of the only, if not the only Republican to break ranks with Republican conference and vote yes on the assault weapons ban way back in 1994. And he even got a thank you letter from President Bill Clinton for doing that. But because he was the governor and they wanted to curry political favor with him, there went Buckeye Firearms Association endorsing him. By the way, John Kasich would then go on in 2018 after February 14, the Parkland shooting in Florida that year. He would go on to launch a massive push for red flag gun confiscation. And I think I probably, I'll get into it here in just a minute, but DeWine has done a few things similar. But also not just the top level stuff. They endorse down ballot total rhinos who are absolute gun grabbers. They shovel these endorsements out. They shovel these out because not because of the individual person, but because they want to be in line with whatever leadership tells them to do. So they also endorsed Mike Haney. Mike Haney was John Kasich's red flag gun confiscation bill sponsor in the House. I think it was House Bill 518 or something like that. It's been a few years. So they endorsed Mike Haney, who would then sponsor red flag gun confiscation, not because he had some pro-gun record, but because he was the speaker's pick for that race. They also endorsed, let me pop up another one here, Peggy Lehner. Peggy Lehner, after the Dayton shooting, was a massive proponent and sponsor for red flag gun confiscation in the state Senate. I think she was from Kettering over there by Dayton. They've also endorsed John Eklund, who, after Peggy Lehner got out, was then the sponsor on red flag gun confiscation. And again, for those of you who don't know, red flag laws strip gun owners of their due process rights by allowing liberal judges to order your guns taken away without you ever being charged, tried, or convicted of a crime based on one-sided accusations at a hearing that a gun owner isn't even allowed to be at. So they endorsed Peggy Lehner. Peggy Lehner is a red flag gun confiscation bill sponsor. Why'd they do it? Because it was in line with what the Senate president wanted. And back then it would have been probably Butterball Larry Obhoff as the Senate president. It doesn't stop there. A little bit of this was in history. Now, But now let's fast forward all the way to right now. Here is Buckeye Firearms Association in this election cycle giving Ohio House Public Safety Committee woman Cindy Abrams an A rating. Cindy Abrams, as chairwoman currently of the House Public Safety Committee, refuses to allow even sponsor testimony on the Ohio Freedom to Carry Act, the Ohio Second Amendment Protection Act, and the Ohio Self-Defense Act, which are arguably the three most important pieces of pro-gun legislation currently before the Ohio General Assembly. This woman, who they are giving an A rating to, is one of the #1 gun control rhinos in the entire Ohio General Assembly, going back for many, many years. And here's Buckeye Firearms Association giving her an A rating. Again, this has nothing to do with how that legislator has performed. It has everything to do with what leadership is telling BFA to do. Okay? And that brings us on to Matt Huffman. Here's Matt Huffman with Gary Click, probably at one of their very fancy fundraisers that they're constantly promoting. Gary Click is one of the people that Huffman, who is also responsible as Speaker of the House, he chooses the committee chairs. He's the one who chose Cindy Abrams to be chair of the Public Safety Committee, and here he is partnering up with Gary Click and giving and assisting him in his campaign to get him through to make sure that Matt Huffman retains the speaker's gavel after this election. Here's another picture of Gary by himself. And this one's a little bit weird to me. It tells me, like, Gary, look, you have got to do some shoulder exercises, do some lat raises, do some front raises. It's going like that, dude. And but here he is at a very fancy fundraiser again with Speaker Matt Huffman. And Huffman is the one who decides OROC, the Ohio House Republican Organizational Committee, I think it is. He controls OROC, which controls the funding for all of the picked candidates that he needs to get across the line in order to ensure that he retains his grips on the levers of power at the State House. And let me tell you what these fundraisers are all about. When a guy like Gary Click, who is a very unremarkable person in person, when he puts out a fundraising notification to the lobby and says that Speaker Matt Huffman will be his guest of honor, again, this is the same Matt Huffman who's been sandbagging all of the gun bills, all of the medical freedom bills. He's the one who screwed up the redistricting and denied Trump another congressional district, denied Ohio another Republican congressional district. It begins to paint the picture here, right? So here they are. So when that invitation goes out, it lets all of the lobbyists know that Speaker Huffman, who they don't really care so much about giving Gary Click money, because Gary Click doesn't control anything. It's the speaker who controls everything. So when Gary has a fundraiser announcing that Matt Huffman is his guest of honor, it sends the notice out to all of the lobbyists and the special interest groups that, okay, this is a Huffman approved candidate for us to come and dump money into. You see, the lobbyists, they're not going to dump money into candidates that the speaker doesn't like, because by doing that, it creates blowback on them and big problems for them getting their special interest pork bills across the finish line. You see what I'm saying? So along to these, so Matt Huffman shows up in his best casual outfit at these events, and all you got to do is dig into Gary Click's fundraising numbers to figure out exactly that his campaign isn't funded by the grassroots. And let me see if I can pull up a screenshot here. If you read who Gary Click's donors, these are the lobbyists and special interest groups that show up at these fundraisers that Huffman has approved. So they come and they start dumping money in, and you can see here that it's political education, whatever, the affiliated construction, Ohio State Association, whatever, Ohio Automobile Dealers, Labor's Local 500, United Association Local 50, plumbers, affiliated construction, International Association of blah, 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 Ohio Ironworkers. I mean, all of these are great big, either union shops, not that I have any problem with them, but special interest groups that want to use the legislative process to control risks to their efforts, to their businesses, to their special interest that they've got going on. So Gary Click throws a fundraiser, gets Matt Huffman to come in. That sends the signal to the special interests and the lobbyists, dump your money here. And here's where it all comes together. Let me see if I got this on the next screen here. In return, because Huffman has arranged now for all of these special interest groups to dump all of this money into Gary Click's campaign account, you can see it right here. And I wish I could blow this up a little bit bigger. I don't know how to do it. But Gary Click then turns around and sends the vast majority of that special interest money right to Huffman's PAC. Dang it. Let me see if I can blow that up just a little bit here. Yeah, you won't be able to see it like that. Dang it. I'll just read it for you. And this is just in 2025. I don't think we had numbers yet from 2026. Committee to elect Gary Click transferred $4,000 to Ohio House Republican Organizational Committee, OROC, that is Huffman's PAC. Another $10,000 sent to OROC, Huffman's PAC. $25,000 sent to OROC, Huffman's PAC. Do you see what's going on here? Nothing about this is grassroots whatsoever. By controlling the flow of funds and by controlling the endorsement process and by having leadership tethered organizations such as Buckeye Firearms Association come out and endorse who they endorse, Huffman is rigging the system for himself to accumulate power to himself. There's no way that if I was to ever run for office, that if I had hundreds or dozens or whatever of grassroots donors donating money to my campaign to try to get me elected, that I would turn around and send that money right to leadership. But this was never Gary's money anyway. This was money that he raised from special interest groups because Matt Huffman gave those people the order when he agreed to come to these fundraisers. That's what's going on here. And so when Ohio Gun Owners comes along and calls, and by the way, when that happens, when he transfers all of that money to OROC, then OROC's campaign team runs the entirety of Gary Click's campaign. They run the mailers, they design the mailers, they run they video the TV, the video ads, they make the buys, they do all that stuff because a guy like Gary Click has no clue how to do all of those things. So this is the rigging that's going on. This is the subversion of the will of the grassroots. And they do it all behind closed doors in a way that is very subversive. You ever sit there and wonder why the heck that it takes so much to get pro-gun legislation passed in Ohio when the billionaire Haslam family from Tennessee can ask the legislature for $600 million and get it like that? You ever wonder why the health freedom, by the way, you go down through Gary Click's donors, you see people on there like Bill Reineke, the incoming Senate president. You see people on there like Scott Lips, who sandbagged the medical health freedom bills in Ohio. All of these people are in bed together, and they're all rigging the system against you, and all of these special interest groups are in on it. So that is why when Ohio Gun Owners comes along and says, no, we're not beholden to anybody except for our members, and our members want us to fight like dogs for the Second Amendment because the clock is ticking in this country. We see what they want to do to us. We see what they did in Virginia. We've seen what they've done over the years in California, Washington, Oregon, New York, Illinois, what they're doing anywhere they possibly can in Virginia just this last couple months. We see what they're trying to do. You ever wonder why we keep electing super Republican majorities and nothing happens? It's because, pardon me, it's because of this rigged system. And they're all in on it. They're fleecing gun owners for their votes. They're fleecing taxpayers for their wealth. They're transferring all of this. They're rigging Ohio government to benefit their special interest pals. And they're screwing you over. That's what Gary Click is doing right now. That's why Gary Click is mad that we come along and don't play by their rules, because their rules are driving Ohio into the gutter. Plain and simple. So I want you guys to understand this. This is the system that we fight against all the time. And of course, they turn right around and Gary Click will say that I'm a scammer because I do gun politics in multiple states, because the same rigged system is happening everywhere. It's happening everywhere. And I want gun owners to have as many rights and maximum freedom codified in state law for whatever is coming at us down the road, because Trump ain't going to be in office for forever. I don't know who's going to replace him. I don't know who the president's going to be 4 years from now or 8 years from now or 12 years from now. But I want robust laws on the books in every state in America that can pass them to give gun owners a fighting chance to tell tyrannical governments to go F themselves. Gary gets mad that I say that those people didn't read, they're idiots for reading the bill. It's true. It's true. We need Republicans to act like we are in 2026 instead of acting like it's 1995, because I don't think we have 4 election cycles more to get this right. Things are falling apart at a rate that these people, these Republican majorities, are totally ignoring. They're subverting you. They're aiding and abetting the enemies of freedom. So please share this video with everybody that you know so that they can understand how this system really works. I apologize this went on for long, but it had to be said. I want you guys to have this information so that you are far better lobbyists for your own freedoms. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back in the next one. Until then, make sure you go out and vote pro-gun in the May Republican primaries. Thank you very much.